This is the B1C1P1 Foundation Past Paper 5 run through. Always remember you've got these equations in the front of your booklet and the front of the paper. It's particularly important for the physics section, where sometimes all you have to do is choose the right equation and plug in your numbers. The first section is the biology section. So Deb is 13 years old. Her doctor has told her that she must eat enough protein each day. She can calculate her estimated average requirement, the EAR, for protein in grams using this formula. Deb has a mass of 58 kilograms. Look at the information about how much protein Deb eats in one day. Using the formula for EAR, should Deb be concerned about the amount of protein she eats? So the first thing you've got to do here is calculate her EAR. So EAR equals 0.6 times her body mass in kilograms, which is given to you here. So that's 58. So that equals 34.8. Then you need to work out how much protein she's eating. So you need to add all these together, and that equals 32.4 grams if you add them all together. And then you just need to compare them. So you get 1 mark for doing that, 1 mark for this and saying that her intake is lower. And then you have to explain whether she should be concerned. So if you said yes, then you need to put a reason. It's because she's a teenager, which needs more protein for growth. But if you put no, you could say that it's only slightly below her EAR, and that could be made up another day. So yes or no would be a right answer, but you have to have the correct explanation depending on the answer you gave. Chaminda visits the doctor because he feels ill. The doctor tells him this: a little while ago some bacteria entered your body. Your body will soon make antibodies to kill the bacteria. To help, I'll give you some medicine. This medicine has been thoroughly tested on animals first. Describe how Chaminda's body normally defends against bacteria. So 4 marks here for all the things that the body does. So a mark for saying the skin provides a barrier. A mark for saying that blood clots to prevent entry, cuts. A mark for saying that the bacteria is trapped in mucus in the airways, and another mark for saying it's killed by acid in the stomach. So 4 things there you could have written, which would get you those 4 marks. Chaminda is concerned that the medicine has been tested on animals. Suggest what his concerns might be. So you've got 2 marks. 1 mark saying there's ethical worries about animal rights, so cruelty to animals, and the second mark for saying that the effect on animals might be different than the effect on humans, because animals are different to humans. The diagram shows parts of a human eye. So you've got to finish these labelling. So the first one here is the pupil, and the other one is the optic nerve. So mark for each of those. Look at the list of actions. The eye is a receptor for all these actions. What of the actions are reflexes? Put a tick in the box next to each of the reflex actions, and put a cross in the box next to each of the actions which are not reflex actions. So there's 1 mark here, so you've got to get all these right. So automatically blinking, well, the word automatically kind of suggests that it's going to be a reflex action, so that's a tick. Changing the shape of your pupil without thinking in bright light. Again, the without thinking is important. Turning on the light when it gets dark, that's not a reflex action, that's something you choose to do. If the 2 that you can't choose to do, that are just you do them automatically, they're the reflex actions, and the one you can't choose to do, you do choose to do, turning on the light, that is a non-reflex action. Some reflex actions slow down as people get older. Why might this be a problem? And the answer here is to do with there being more chance of injury, because reflexes are protective. So if you put there's more chance of injury, then that'll get you a mark. Tobacco smoke contains chemicals and can affect the lungs. One of these chemicals is an addictive substance. Write down the name of the chemical, so that the addictive stuff in tobacco smoke is nicotine. And then the graph shows how well the lungs work at different ages. This is shown for 2 groups of people. One group are heavy smokers, the other group are non-smokers. The dotted line shows the possible effect of stopping smoke at age 48. Doug is a 48-year-old heavy smoker. Doug decides to give up smoking. What difference does this make to the age at which lung damage is likely to make him disabled? So you can see that the efficiency of the lungs drops dramatically for smokers, but not so much for non-smokers. And then if you stop at age 48, it drops a bit slower, and the disability level is here. So essentially, it'll take longer for him to become disabled. And if you say how long, and that's 20 extra years, if you look at where he'll become disabled if he doesn't stop smoking, and where if he does, that's 20 years. So 1 mark for saying it take him longer to become disabled, and 1 mark for saying the length of time, so that's 20 years. Next question, explain this difference in the age at which Doug would become disabled. Use knowledge of the effect of smoke on the lungs in your answer. So again, 2 marks here. 1 mark is saying smoking causes damage to the cilia, which means chemicals build up and cause cancer or emphysema. And another mark for saying, but giving up prevents further damage to the cilia. So 1 mark for saying what smoking does to damage the cilia, and 1 mark for saying what giving up will do, and that's preventing the further damage, therefore reducing the risk of cancer. Next question, Basil is a gardener. He keeps a diary of the work he does in his garden. Here is part of his diary. So on the 27th of September, it says, today I decided to grow some new geranium plants. I cut small shoots off the plants and dipped them in a powder to make them grow roots. I then planted the shoots in some soil. Basil dips the geranium shoots into a powder containing plant hormones before planting them. Explain why. So that's simply to make the roots grow. If you put to make the roots grow or to make the roots grow faster, that's fine. The next question is a 6-mark question, so please can you mark this yourself using the mark scheme that's on the Google site, and if you're unsure whether you've marked it correctly, please ask your teacher and they'll just check it for you. So on to the chemistry section. This first question is about carbon compounds. There's some displayed formulas there. Which compound is found in liquid petroleum gases? So in LPG, you will find propane. So propane is your first one there. How many atoms are present in the formula for propane? So the number of atoms is the complete number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 atoms. And then write down names of the 2 elements present in a hydrocarbon. So remember, all hydrocarbons are made of hydrogen and carbon only, if you're asked to define this. So it's hydrogen, you need that full word. If you just put hydro, that wouldn't get you a mark. Phil is heating his house. Phil decides to use natural gas or methane to heat his house. Look at the word equation. It shows what happens when complete combustion of methane. We want to finish the word equation. So during complete combustion, you make carbon dioxide and water. During incomplete combustion, you make carbon monoxide and water. And Phil uses a gas water heater. He notices that the water heater is producing lots of soot. It's important that he gets the gas heater serviced to explain why. So this is all to do with the idea that that soot shows that incomplete combustion is happening. So first mark is just saying that incomplete combustion must be happening, and second mark is saying that carbon monoxide might be being made, which is poisonous. So those 2 things will get you those 2 marks. So the next question, Phil wants to heat his greenhouse. He decides to test 4 liquid fuels to see which fuel is the best to use. Look at the diagram, it shows the apparatus he uses to measure the energy given out by these fuels. Phil decides to use fuel C to heat his greenhouse. Evaluate this is a sensible choice. So evaluate basically means to give the pros and cons of each of the choices. So the first reason why it would be a sensible choice is that it's cheaper. You see, it's the cheapest one, so that'll get you a mark. But if you worked out the differences of the temperature, the water, and the start at the end, you will see that fuel B gives the biggest temperature rise. So you could say that fuel B might be the best one because it gives the biggest temperature rise. But if you work out the temperature rise per penny, then you'll find that fuel A has the highest temperature rise per penny. So there's 3 points to be made there. First point to say that C is the cheapest and therefore it could be the best. But then saying that B could be the best because it has the highest temperature rise, and then A could be the best because it has the highest temperature rise per penny. So this next question is about solvents. So the table here, and it says the table shows us results of investigation where Leslie was investigating the solubility of different nail varnishes in different solutions, or different liquids, sorry. So it says, which solvent did not dissolve any of the nail varnishes? Well, the table shows you which ones were insoluble and which ones were soluble. Insoluble meaning that it doesn't dissolve, and soluble meaning it does dissolve. So you can see that water is the only one that none of them dissolved in, because they're all insoluble in water. It says, why is ethyl ethanoate a better solvent for nail varnishes than petrol? So you can see that ethyl ethanoate dissolved all the colours, but petrol had 2 that didn't dissolve. So if you put something like ethyl ethanoate dissolves more of the colours, or all of the colours, whereas petrol doesn't dissolve all of them, then I'll get that mark. And then it says, Finchfield Pharmaceuticals makes a new nail varnish remover. It must be tested before it can be approved for use by humans. Give 2 examples of risks that should be tested for. So any 2 of whether it irritates the skin, whether it's toxic or poisonous, and whether it reacts with water or sweat. So any 2 of those 3. Next question, it says, look at the list. It shows some of the gases found in clean air. Write down the name of one other gas present in clean air. So your oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapour, and the main gas in air is nitrogen. So nitrogen is your answer there. Sulfur dioxide causes air pollution. Write about the effects of sulfur dioxide pollution. So sulfur dioxide causes acid rain. That's your first mark. Then you've got to say what acid rain does. So you could say it kills plants. You could say it kills fish. You could say it dissolves stone, corrodes metals, any of those. So 1 mark for the acid rain and 1 mark for what it does. Some people throw away plastic bottles. This can cause a litter problem. But explain why throwing away plastic bottles can cause problems. So first mark is the idea that it's non-biodegradable. It won't rot. 1 mark for saying it's non-biodegradable. 1 mark for saying that means it doesn't rot. And then a mark for saying what they should be doing. So this means it must be disposed of by burning or by landfill or by recycling. So those 3 points, we get you those 3 marks. This next question is a 6-mark question in the chemistry section, so please can you mark this yourself using the mark scheme that can be found online, and then ask your teacher if you're unsure whether you've marked it correctly. Next question. Asif has an old gas fire that heats the living room of his house. The diagram shows how much energy in the gas actually heats the room. So you've got to complete the Sankey diagram. So it's total energy input is 20,000 joules. It tells you what the efficiency is, 60%. So you've got to work out what 60% of 20,000 is. So all you've got to do is do 20,000 divided by 100, then times by 60. So that gives you 12,000, and then the rest is going to be wasted. So that's 8,000 that's wasted. 1 mark for each of those. Next question. So Asif changes his old gas fire for a new one because he thinks a more efficient fire will save money. Look at the data and tell about the new gas fire. So you've got the efficiency, cost to buy the gas fire, and the 1-year saving each year. Asif plans to keep the gas fire for 10 years. The salesman recommends that Asif buys the model with the highest efficiency. Asif considers the payback time for each gas fire and the saving on fuel cost. Which model of gas fire should Asif choose? So your choice gets no mark, but you should get concept, and that's because if you work out how much time it will take to pay back each of these, the concept is the only one that takes less than 10 years. So you get 2 marks, 1 for saying that's the only model where the payback time is less than 10 years, and then 1 for saying that it means he'll make the most money over the 10 years, because he'll actually make some money once he's paid it back. This question is about waves. A water wave is a transverse wave. Look at the diagram of a transverse wave. There it is. Use letters on the diagram to identify the wavelengths of this wave. So the wavelength is, so you've got to be something like the distance between, and it's between A and D. That's one wave. Next question. The following measurements of some water waves on a lake were recorded. 4 waves pass a point in 2 seconds and the wavelength is 1.25. So the depth is unknown. Calculate the speed. So to work out the wave speed, if you look up in your equation table, that equals the wavelength times the frequency. Now the first thing to do is work out the frequency. So it tells you 4 waves pass a point in 2 seconds. So the frequency is 4 divided by 2, which equals 2. There's 2 waves per second. So it's going to equal 1.25 times 2, which equals 2.5. And there's your answer, 2.5. This next question is a 6-mark question in the physics section, so please can you mark this yourself using the mark scheme that's online. Ask your teacher if you need any help with it. Next question is about radiation from the sun. Radiation is harmful. It says one of the harmful effects of radiation is increased risk of cataracts. Write about one other harmful effect of radiation and different ways to reduce the risk of damage. So, 3 marks here. 1 for saying sunburn or skin cancer or premature skin aging, or even excessive suntan will get you a mark. And then there's 2 marks for different ways to reduce the risk of damage. Spend less time in the sun, or use a higher factor sun cream, or put on a hat, or sit in the shade. Will get you those 3 marks. Okay, next question is about waves and signals. It says infrared sensors are used in burglar alarms. Look at the diagram. Why does this sensor detect a burglar but not a curtain moving in the wind? So this is the idea that infrared sensors are sensitive to heat. So the first mark was saying that they're sensitive to heat, and the second mark was saying the burglar gives out body heat and so is warmer than its surroundings, but the curtain does not have body heat. Look at the digital signal. Write the code for the signal in the boxes below. So remember, if it's down here, it's a 0, and if it's up here, it's a 1. So you've got 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, and these are all 1s, and then 0, 0. 1 mark for that. Here's another signal. How can you tell it's not a digital signal? So this is the idea that it has varying values, so the values aren't just 0 and 1. So if you say it's not only on or off, and it's not only 0 or 1, you get a mark, or you could say it has continuing varying values, or it has varying values. Many years ago, it was difficult to send messages long distances. A runner had to carry a written message. Technology has developed so that light can be used to send messages. One example of such technology is optical fibres. Describe one advantage and one disadvantage of using a light to send messages. So an advantage would be this increased speed of communication. So it's faster or quicker communication. And disadvantage would be that you need the use of technology to support the use of light. So you can't just have a person taking a message, you need wires and cables and things like that. And the last question, this question is about heating a solid. The solid is warm, look at the graph. Why does the temperature remain constant in part B of the graph? So this is the idea that the solid is melting. So remember, if the temperature is staying constant, it's changing state, and here it is melting, and here it will be boiling. So it says part B, so there it's melting. It says, explain why the temperature goes up in part E after staying constant in part D. And then, so that is the idea that the gas is heating up that's been made. So you said that liquid has all boiled in part D, or the gas is heating up, and that will get you that final mark. So add up your marks, write it on your poster, and now try the next paper.